Welcome back to Straight Facts on Friday. Husam is with me. Staffy will be with us. He's just running a little bit late. Welcome to the show, everyone. Hit like buttons and subscribe. And if you're looking to improve your health, you're looking to lose weight, as I'm currently doing, check out Brickhouse Nutrition, your very best supplement company to help make that happen. But Husam, how are you?
I'm good. You know, Ange has finally been exposed once and for all. So everyone can move on from the irritating Ange prop we had at the start of the season. Big up to all of you in the chat. Make sure you guys are liking the video. Make sure you guys are subscribing to the Football Terrace. Hello, camera. I'm telling people to like and you can't even focus. Thank you very much. Anyway, so make sure you guys are liking. Make sure you guys are subscribing. Share the video everywhere as well. And yeah, Straight Facts is back, which means Husam is ready to come up here and give you guys the entertainment that you guys need. So we back, baby. Let's do this.
And there's lots to talk about today, mate. Obviously, there is the weekend's games in the title race. We are going to be going in deep on the Ange Postecoglou situation, as there are Spurs fans everywhere now turning on him, talking about Postecoglou out. So we're going to give our takes on that. Has he really been exposed? Is this about his squad? We're going to be going in depth on that today. There is a new case that is circulating in Spain that isn't directly about Manchester City, but involves the City group. And that is serious accusations against Girona for the signing of one of their strikers and some tax evasion within that in Spain. Of course, the City group owned, I think it's 47% of that club. We'll be talking about that as well. But I wanted to start with Man United today, actually, and a story that's emerged. And I really wanted to get Staffy's take, but he is running a little bit late. But Barcelona have registered their interest in Bruno Fernandes, according to reportedly some credible sources in Spain, which isn't surprising. He's a very, very, very good football player, in my opinion. Man United are stating they would be willing to include Bruno in a deal for Frankie De Jong, a player that a lot of Spanish outlets have said could leave Barcelona this summer. If that was a plausible deal, Bruno leaving, Frankie De Jong coming in for Man United, how would you view that?
I know you like Bruno, but football has fell off if Bruno Fernandes becomes a Barcelona footballer. Barcelona have fell off a cliff, bro. They have, like, this is regardless of the Bruno thing. Rafinha, like, bro, what happened to Barcelona? If you're a Barcelona fan in the chat, I'm sorry, your club has just fallen off a cliff now, the fact that this is happening. Obviously, all Man United fans should take that deal because it makes sense. Frankie de Jong is maybe the type of prototype of player that you're missing right now. However, it depends the direction you're headed in. My issue with this Man United situation, and I know it's like something that's a separate topic, but I feel like it's kind of a little bit related, is I feel like the manager situation influences these things too. What if the manager, prime example, we all know Bruno Fernandes is a 10, okay? If you give him 10 role, he might have better numbers, perform better, etc. If you get a manager in that plays a 4-2-3-1 and you have Bruno playing in the 10 behind the striker or whatever it is and stuff like that, then, you know, maybe it benefits him. Maybe you don't need a Frankie de Jong in that situation. So it really just depends what Manchester United plan on doing in the future. Now, from Barcelona's perspective, this is definitely negative. From a United perspective, this is positive because Frankie de Jong is a player we've been linked with over the last 2-3 years. Does he look good for a Man United move now? That's here the $1 million question, to be honest with you. That's like what we're looking at and saying, like, okay, like, does he suit the Premier League? Maybe he has quite a bit of an Enzo gene about him, where it's not necessarily the system, not necessarily any of that. Maybe it's just like, maybe it just doesn't suit the physicality of the Premier League. However, I think that's obviously the negative part of the deal. I think from a more positive perspective, I think obviously he's very good on the ball, very good passer of the ball, could easily dictate tempo, which is what Man United need a little bit of right now. So, you know, you could see, as an example, a Mainu with him double pivot going on there. It could be something that both of them work hard defensively together, and, you know, you have him to keep the ball, keep the tempo ticking. So I really think it just depends the direction Man United want to head in. If they want to get Graham Potter in, then yes.
I understand that. Physicality-wise, I think De Jong will be fine. If you actually, I haven't watched hundreds of his games, but the guy's got a really good turn of pace. He isn't someone that looks as though he's easily moved off a ball. I think he gets that reputation because he looks fairly skinny, and he's got blonde hair. And for some reason, I think the way he looks, he's got blonde, sort of like, he's got that sort of beach boy look, surf look, which I think people look at it and they interpret, oh, is he that athletic? Is he that physical? But when you watch him play, I think he has that in his locker. Everybody knows how much I rate Bruno in terms of his ability to turn a game, his ability to influence a game, his ability to create a chance to score a goal. It's undeniable in the past 5 to 6 years in European football. There's been very few midfielders that have produced the level of chances, created the amount of goals, or scored the amount of goals that he has. But I said this the other day, I'm open to anything this summer, barring the only one I'm 100% don't want to leave the club, 100%, is Kobbie Mainoo. Everybody else, to a degree, I'm open to, as long as we are improving as a football club. And maybe their thought process is very much, we want to control games more. We need a controller in the midfield, but we've got to raise money. And Bruno Fernandes is an asset they can raise money from. You're never going to replace Bruno like for like with someone that can come in and score and create at his level. The only other attacking midfielder out there that's doing that really is KDB, and he's too old and not coming to Man United anyway. So maybe we've got to do a bit of a Roy Keane here. When we replaced Roy Keane, we tried doing it with a few players that had a similar profile, didn't work. In the end, we went for a Michael Carrick option, who was a very different defensive midfield player, but equally as effective for Manchester United. Maybe that's what we've got to now look to do, is go, right, let's build a midfield of De Jong and Mainoo that can hold on to the ball, that can maintain possession, that keeps the pressure off of our back line. And we have to make the system create the chances more than having an individual that's brilliant at it. In terms of Barca, when you say they've fallen off, I think someone like Bruno is exactly what they need. They have Pedris and Gavis and Gundogan who can hold on to the ball, maintain possession, and all of that. What they don't have, in my opinion, is somebody at Bruno's level creating the. If you just go, right, Bruno, you are going to play off that striker, whoever that is going to be.
Number 10?
You're going to play off that striker as almost a secondary striker. I think he could thrive in that role. I really think he could thrive in that role.
Yeah, but the problem is Barcelona don't do that. That's the problem. Barcelona play 4-3-3 like from under 3. Like,
yeah, look, you know my thoughts on this when it comes to things like 4-3-3s, 4-3-3s, and 4-2-3-1s. I don't believe in the cold light of day are that different from one another, because you've got this. If you look at Bruno Fernandes at Man United when he plays 10, and look at his heat map where he touches the ball, where he passes from, where he crosses from, where he shoots from, it's almost identical to Odegaard's, who plays in a 4-3-3. It's where it's the positions that you take up, and no one actually sits in those regimented positions. Man United's problem is you're not meant to do it in possession at all times, but you're meant to be regimented out of the ball. We're all fall in and out. Do you know what I mean? In terms of the shape. But listen, I'm not against it. I'm not against it. I think it's all about what we're doing. It's such a hard one to judge because we don't know who our manager is. There's obviously the interview today, and there's talk of him staying. And when you listen to the interview, it kind of sounds like he might be, but I'm still not convinced. I think that Man United are doing a bit of a.
That's what I'm saying. If he stays, this whole conversation changes then.
Well, it doesn't, because Frankie de Jong was always his number one target in terms of his number one player. And I think he said in the interview, I've got to listen to it in full. I haven't had a chance to. I've been very busy with the
but
kids.
If he stays, getting rid of Bruno's wrong.
Potentially.
The way that he plays football, you need a Bruno.
Yes, but it's whether this is the thing. If he stays, I cannot imagine he stays and the club says, continue trying to do what you're doing. If he stays, I think it's going to be, this is how we're going to play football. And you need to coach that as opposed to you deciding how you're going to play. And if that's the case, look, I'm not for it. I think the fact that we're looking at other managers, talking to other managers, you've got to move on from him. It sends a really bad message to the dressing room of, if we could have got better, Ten Hag wouldn't be here. But for now, he's staying. You could never do. If you came and work for me, Husam, and you were in charge of everybody, but the whole team knew I was looking for a replacement, but just couldn't find one. Do you really think they're going to listen to you? Do you really think they're going to take your word as gospel when it comes to training or whatever it may be? And so I'm not convinced he's going to stay personally. Equally, what I will say from the snippets I've seen of that interview, nothing's all his fault. And that's all I would say. I think he's massively to blame for certain elements, but I still keep seeing people write things like, he is the reason we are where we are. No, the way we've been run is, and I think Man United fans have got to remember that. But viewers, give us your thoughts. Give us your feelings on that. Would be pretty ruthless of Ineos to sell Bruno Fernandes. I mean, do you think it would send a message to the dressing room that no one's safe?
That it would send, because if you're getting rid of Bruno, then yes, it sends a message that no one's safe. This is true. But are you using the wrong messenger, basically? That's the $1 million question here. Because if you're telling me Ten Hag is staying and I've got to basically get rid of Bruno, then you're just making yourself significantly weaker. That's just whether people like it or not. Listen, I don't like Bruno. Bruno's a rat to me, and that's never going to change. I hate the guy. I fully can't stand the guy. But that's just my opinion. But for me, look, at the end of the day, it could be the wrong messenger to use for that message.
I totally agree. Do you know what stands out to me?
Selling Rashford to sell the same exact message, by the way.
Well, this is what I find interesting. Whenever you're going to sell a player or you're going to sack a manager that rivals rate, they banter you. Nobody really banters you when somebody bad is leaving. If Maguire is sold this summer, you might get some going, oh my God, 80 million, look, he's being sold as a flop. But you're not going to get anyone saying, ha ha, you're getting rid of Maguire. The fact that people are laughing that Bruno might go, that is one thing I'd say to Man United fans that dislike him is look what rivals think of him. And you only really think he's a rat. I know he can moan, I know he can complain, but you only really think he's a rat because he's delivered. If he was a flop, he wouldn't bother you. You wouldn't dislike him. Because if I think about your club, Liverpool, and the players...
I dislike him because of his mannerisms on the pitch.
Yeah, but it's because he's good. What I mean is, there's loads of Liverpool players over the years who didn't deliver for you and were flops. Like, I don't think about Jay Spearing in a negative way, but I do Steven Gerrard. I don't think about Stig Bjørneby in a negative way, but I do Trent from a Man United fan perspective because they're good. And you always hate on the good players at your rival teams. You know, if you guys this summer sell Curtis Jones, you're not going to see me boo him when he walks on the field at Old Trafford playing for whoever, West Ham, because it doesn't matter that he's ex-Liverpool. He was a no mark, in my opinion. He was a drop in the ocean. So there is that element there for United fans to look at, but we will see. Viewers, hit like buttons. Make sure you are subscribing and all of that. Remember to go and check out Brickhouse Nutrition. I cannot advocate for this organization more. Pure organic superfood supplements to really help your diet, really help your nutrition. It's suitable for you and your family. So your children can drink it, your partner can drink it. I have around 2 per day. It's 1 scoop into a glass of water, and it is full of pure organic fruit, veggies, and herbs. That is all that is in it. There is no gunk. There's no added chemicals. There's no factory-made drugs or additives or any kind of shit in it whatsoever at all. You can get a 15% discount by using promo code SQUAD. But scan the QR code on the screen now or click on the link to go and take a look at Brickhouse Nutrition and their Field of Green range. It's amazing. Now, we all know that there's a lot of... Thank you, Husam. We all know there's a lot of stuff going on surrounding Manchester City. And as I've advocated and said many times on the terrace, we're going to talk about the articles that are out in public and the evidence that the Premier League believes is out in public. We'll talk about things the Premier League have said, which is there's more to show, but that's all going to come out in the hearing. You know my stance. If they're found guilty, I will condemn them. If they're found innocent, then they are innocent, and everything that's gone before is done as far as I'm concerned. I know you see it very, very differently. There is another accusation, though, and another scandal that has raised its head, a case of tax fraud coming out of Spain. And this article claims that a serious accusation against a surfaced in Spain regarding Girona, a club owned by the City Group. They're accused of making illicit payments for the purchase of their striker, whose name I think is pronounced Dubek, transfer to evade taxes in the Ukraine by paying the selling club directly. So some issues there again. Do you feel this is a witch hunt against Manchester City and the City Group at large? Or is this good journalism exposing malpractice within football?
How can it be a witch hunt against Manchester City when Manchester City are the witches themselves. You know, it's just like actually that actually just debunks everything I've said, because if it's a witch hunt, then
Yeah,
yeah, they're
it
hunting
does.
the witch. Loki, that was a bad start to the segment, but yeah, I don't think it's a witch hunt against Manchester City. I think it's just more and more stuff, you know, getting exposed. I mean, we all know about the whole situation with Erling Haaland's dad, you know, him getting payments under the table essentially anytime Erling Haaland scores a tap and daddy gets some money type shit. So this doesn't surprise me, to be honest with you. This doesn't surprise me whatsoever. Looking at Girona, where they are, I mean, no one even knew who Girona are. 10 years ago, if I'm on YouTube and I go like, yo, Girona play in Spain, everyone will be like, who? Who's Girona? Like, it's just, I just don't know who the hell Girona are. But now you look, and they're suddenly in the top 4, I believe, in La Liga. Let me actually double check. They are in the top 4 right now, right? Yeah, they are in the top 4. I think they are in the top 4. They were even at a point in time, they were even top of the league, I think. So, like, that's just, yeah, they're
Yeah,
third.
I mean, they were certainly in the title race. And to give more clarity, that the article states that the signing of I think I want to pronounce it as Drubek. I've run it through a few how to pronounce websites, and that's what they've said. Girona's top goal scorer and their most expensive acquisition is under scrutiny from alleged fraudulent activities aimed at evading taxes in the Ukraine. According to the report, the footballer's agent may have set up an illegal entity in Estonia to receive payments to bypass the Ukrainian regulations. A lawyer has filed a complaint with UEFA urging an investigation into the matter, and he claims that the payments intended for the Ukraine's agent's company were instead directed to. So this looks like the payment that's gone to the agent for Girona to be able to sign him has not gone to where it's meant to go. It's gone for a different company. The accusation is it's to evade taxes. Now, of course, there is no point in this article that states there is proof City knew about this, but of course, due diligence is really important. Whenever you're sending money to anybody, you're meant to know who you're sending it to, why, where it's going, how come it's going to that country. And if I'm sending you money, I know you live in Jordan. If you suddenly give me a bank account details that's in Thailand, I'm going to question you. Why am I sending the money to Thailand when you're based in Jordan, right? No, it's true. I'm good. And why do I know this? I worked in banking, and if things didn't add up, I had a client. So one of my clients was Son from Tottenham. He used to send 80 to 95% of his money every month back to South Korea. That made sense, right? If he was suddenly sending it to Argentina, like, hang on a minute, why is it going to Argentina, mate? Like, when you don't, I would need to know. So this is one of those things for me. It says here that the seriousness of the situation is emphasized with potential sanctions looming over Girona and the agent involved, plus the player. These sanctions could include financial penalties, loss of licenses, and even exclusion from national and European competitions. It does go on to, however, despite the severity of the allegations, according to an expert that this is the newspaper that reported it, consulted with, UEFA's economics criteria rules do not typically consider payments to representation as grounds for sanctions. However, they go on to say that if it's proven that they were aware that this was to avoid taxes, then there could be. And I think when you look at City's other accusations, and they are accusations at this point about paying managers extra money via offshore accounts, paying agents money to get players that didn't go through the books. Yeah, I think because of that, this is why it's going to rear its head. And, for City fans, I'm sure they're going to come out and say, we believe in our innocence. We had nothing to do with it. This is dodginess from an agent, which it very well could be. But it's one of those things where with everything going on in the background, at the very least, it is not a good look for Manchester City to be involved with an agent who is potentially here and allegedly here committing multiple £1 million tax fraud in a country, by the way, that needs every penny it can get right now.
Here's the thing when it comes to this whole conversation. I feel like the fact that, I mean, obviously we've spoken about this before. The fact that Girona and Manchester City have the same exact owner is something that, I find problematic. And I've spoken about this even when it was related to my own club. When people are like, oh, here, FSG are going to do the multi-club model thing. I don't like that. I don't like the fact that it's just the same guy, basically, that owns multiple different football clubs. And And the problem is now, when something like this happens, people are going to relate it to Manchester City. That's just unfortunately what happens, you know. If Manchester City are the same owners that are the owners at Girona or whatever it is, it's like, you know, one of the clubs that they bought alongside like New York City FC and like the club they have in the Indian Super League or whatever. Then, yeah, it's just a part of the equation now. Now I think this type of stuff, obviously, we've seen before in Spain with players actually like going through a problem with this tax evasion stuff. So even the country is going to take this stuff seriously, like stuff like tax evasion and all that. You know, if you set up, as they've been saying, which is set up a bank account in Estonia essentially to avoid taxes, then this is a serious matter. And you know, if they are found guilty of that specific thing, that specific accusation, then I do expect you know, sanctions. I do expect stuff like that. You know, maybe Girona are not allowed to compete in next season's Champions League or whatever shit like that. It's a possibility, and that's just the reality. Because this article right here that you've put up with, I think someone said in the chat, apparently pronounce his name Dovbik. You know,
okay, there we go.
Dovbik,
yeah,
apparently. So yeah, with the Girona player Dovbik, if that happens, and they do get sanctioned, then I do expect that they won't be able to compete in the Champions League next season. And you know, there's already a controversy, Terry, that happened 3 weeks ago on this very exact show when you asked, what do you think of Savio moving from Girona to Manchester City? And I was like, here we go again. Here we go. Like you could just call this. You could just call this. It's essentially like any player that does well in Girona now and is like banging in Girona, hello, come join Manchester City. That's it. It's just like no one cares about Girona, by the way. It's not like you're sat here with like a, you know, 200 million global fans that actually give a fuck about Girona. Like their whole fan base probably couldn't fill up like Wembley. You know, like their whole Girona fan base who've been through there with them through thick and thin, you know, but it is what it is, man. It's just one of these things with football. Football, listen, money talks. Money talks. Money makes the world go around, and football is a dirty sport, a lot more dirty than any of you guys think, specifically with all this shit going on.
Well, I think when you look what's going on at Chelsea and how they've reported themselves for some offshore payments to pay for 2 players, they've reported themselves for a large payment that was paid not to the direct agent of Eden Hazard, but to like an associate of Eden Hazard. And there's also a payment that went to Antonio Conte's agent the day before off the books of Chelsea. So not through the books, but from a sister company to the agent. The day later, Conte agrees to join Chelsea. You've seen it happen. When I've read some of the articles regarding to City's cases, and you've listened to the journalists that have shared this news talk about it, they have stated that the Premier League have alluded there are multiple elements of that within the Chelsea, the Manchester City cases as well. Now, the proof is going to be in the pudding, and we're going to see. But if there are multiple cases of paying agents too much money, or where the money's gone, or the mechanisms it's gone through that are also part of this overarching City situation, this is not going to be a good look for them as well. So have you also seen the news? Because I've had a lot of DMs saying, have you received one of these? Which I kind of laughed at. But there was an article in One Football that's come from City Extra that claims that Manchester City have issued warning letters, so cease and desist letters, with executive team holding significant confidence. So they believe that they're not going to be found guilty. But the rumors have gone around that a number of media outlets and YouTubers, one being Mark Goldbridge, has received cease and desist letters directly from Manchester City. And all of this stems from an account. I don't know who this account is. I don't know how credible it is, but there's a Twitter account called @Real Tolme who tweeted it. No journalist has put this out. Man City haven't confirmed it. But I reached out to the 3 or 4 journalists who have broke all the news regarding Manchester City's cases. And I reached out directly to Mark Goldbridge and said, have you had a cease and desist letter from Man City regarding your articles or your content regarding their alleged breaches and their 115 charges? To which they all 2 of them just sent me back laughing emojis, and 2 came back and said, absolutely not. This is just like a made up rumor. So it's one of those things. I mean,
what does cease and desist mean? What does that mean?
Well, essentially what it is, I'm going to paraphrase here, but if, for instance, you went and did a stream saying, Terry, like you said something that's not right about me, that's a lie, I could get my lawyers to send you a letter that basically says, take down what you've put up, stop talking about it, or we're going to take legal action against you. Does that make sense? So it's a bit of a, just stop doing it and we'll leave it all alone, right?
Hey, no one's emailed me so far. All the shit I said about Manchester
But the thing is this,
Please
as
don't
far as
email
I'm
me,
aware,
leave me
I
alone.
spoke to my lawyer today about this, and I said, what could they? I said, what could Man City really do to a YouTuber who has an opinion based on an article from the Times? And my lawyer said absolutely nothing. The Times are a credible outlet who would have to have sourced their stories. If you, the reader, believe that story, until proof is given that it isn't true, you can't be in trouble for believing it. So I just said I thought so, but yeah, it's been weird. I wanted to bring it up because City fans have fabricated this story and pushed it out. I don't understand why it's been done. None of the journalists that have broke the news have had one.
I understand why it's been done.
The one YouTuber they've all called out, Mark Goldbridge, hasn't had one. I think he quote tweeted someone today that said he got one, and he just quote tweeted it today with 115. Which again, you can't be sued over because they have got 115 charges. That is a cast iron fact, but it's all a bit strange. I don't really understand it, boys.
By the way, this is not very difficult to understand at all, Terry. The Manchester City fans just feel so obliged to just defend their club. By the way, people say Arsenal fans are the most sensitive fan base. They're not. The most sensitive fan base is the Man City fans. Any word you say about Manchester City, you already see 100 people down your throats, just talking shit about Manchester. Oh my God, Manchester City are this, Manchester City are that. Be careful, you're gonna get sued. Like just all type of shit. They just feel obliged to defend their football club. The reality is, listen, your club has 115 charges. We're gonna find out if you're guilty or innocent. We're gonna find out, But you have 115 charges, that are pending, where we could see if you're guilty or not. And at the end of the day, everyone knows Manchester City's success and everything it's manufactured. All of you with City crests in the chat would have had Newcastle crests, Everton crests, whichever club the guy bought, you'd have supported that club because just manufactured success that's made up. That's just the reality. And that's why people for the last 6 years have spent their whole time going like, Manchester City, please save football. I'm one of the few people that actually came on here and said, I'd rather Arsenal win the league. As a supporter of Liverpool Football Club, people go like, Arsenal fans are annoying. I don't give a fuck if Arsenal fans are annoying. Let them be annoying. I'd rather the real club won it, not the manufactured one. Just saying.
See, I don't mind the manufactured element. I never minded when Chelsea got their money. I didn't mind when City got their money. If people actually go back and look at videos of mine when I spoke about City prior to the charges and allegations coming out, I never once condemned how much they spent. I never once condemned their owners or where their owners were from. I never once called Pep or any of their managers, checkbook managers. I don't have an issue with any of that. For me, though, as football fans, ignoring this story just because some City fans think they're innocent or most believe they're innocent is crazy. Because would City fans be ignoring this story if it was about Man United or Liverpool? No. And this is the point. For me, that's just the way I am. I've had Chelsea fans DM me, Terry, can you stop talking about us when we're not good? I only really like watching your content when you praise my team when we're doing well. And that's what this really boils down to, is I don't want it being discussed. And nobody has had a cease and desist letter, not for discussing an article that's in one of the most credible news outlets in the world, the Times. And if what the Times have printed was as fabricated as people are saying, City would have sued them by now. But they haven't been sued because they've actually been charged by the league. So it's one of the, like some people have made the emails that they've published were fake. They're not fake. They're real. They're absolutely real. There is no way the Times would have gone up against somebody with the power and money of Sheikh Mansour if someone sat there on Photoshop making fake emails. They wouldn't have done that. And again, the irony is with the viewers, they're all the ones that are calling me names and having a go at me. You're the ones committing slander. You're the ones that are making up lies here, not me. I'm just talking about an article and asking for opinions on it. It's crazy to me. How are you doing, Staffy? Well, what do you make of this rumor that City fans are pushing around that the club are going after content creators and media outlets for talking about their alleged charges?
First of all, I knew we could have never trusted LB. This guy was preying on our downfall, so he probably pushed all this. And that's a joke for anyone who thinks I'm being for real, because there'll be every time if he's watching this and he's getting a heart attack. I'm joking, man. But listen, I said this before on multiple times and multiple occasions when I'm on the top six or straight facts. This whole City Chargers thing is probably the most annoying story in football. I'm so sick of it. It's been going on for a while. God knows how long it's gonna go on for. I know it came out a couple weeks ago that they might come to a conclusion soon, something like that within those words. And I'm not gonna lie to you, I can't wait for that day because I'm tired of everyone attacking City fans and City fans attacking everyone else's. And at the end of the day, I think it's weird if it's a lie, as you said, the way you described it. Obviously, I'm hearing about this for the first time, but if it's a lie, the way you described it, I think it's very weird to come out and spread a lie like that. I do expect City fans to defend their club no matter what. I mean, I've seen worse. I've seen there's people that legit commit murder and then they go to court and they still hire a lawyer to try to prove their innocence or something like that. So this is nothing compared to all that. Everyone is always going to be defending their own club, their own people, etc. If I'm being very honest with you, I feel like this whole thing is going to lead up to City not being found guilty, anyways. I think the integrity of the league. This is how I thought about it the whole time. At the end of the day, the integrity of the league, in my opinion, is going to be too important to the point that the Premier League won't try to do what happened to Serie A in the past few decades. When you look at how the downfall of Serie A because of all the allegations that they had over for years when it comes to finances and match fixing and cheating and all that stuff. Look at the quality of their league now, how it dropped over years because of the integrity that happened over the early 2000s and 90s and all that stuff. When you look at the Premier League, you're talking about basically saying you're running an unethical league. The league basically loses integrity when 7 of your last 8, is it 7 or 6, something like that? I forgot how many they've won. When you're talking about 6 of your last 8 years, the champion has been cheating their way to doing that. Now, I'm on the same board as you. I've never really had an issue with them spending money and this, and that. I've always had an issue with, okay, did you legally get that money? Did you do it the right way? I'm not hating on your success. I'm hating on the way you reach your success, if you did it the right way or not. And when I look at it, I feel like this whole thing has just been taking too long. It's been dragging. It's been annoying. There's a lot of people like me that are so sick of talking about it because they just want to get to the conclusion. And I'm gonna be really honest with you. I feel like all this is happening and all this shit is gonna continue for I don't know how long for the end to City not being found guilty. And that's going to be the biggest slap in the face for so many people because I feel like there's a lot of people sitting there putting their hopes on City one day being found cheating. So when all this happens, City fans could be like, yeah, we told you so. And then all the other fans that thought like, oh, they're going to get stripped of a Champions League and a league and all this is going to be a slap in the face to them. So I'm not going to lie to you. I hate this topic so much and I just can't wait for it to end because it's the most jarring topic we've had in football in the past decade or so.
Yeah, it's interesting that you find it jarring, and each to their own. I find it intriguing because my view is I don't think City are the only team that have been up to no good, and I think that it all needs to be looked at because sport is one part of sport that's meant to exist is fair play. So when these allegations happen, I think for me, what's been jarring about it, and it's one thing I give so much respect to LB about. LB will have a grown-up adult conversation about it. Patrick, who comes on, will have an adult conversation about it. V's and Nobbins, excellent. They'll sit and talk, and they don't look at it as, well, why are you talking about it? People that want to shut down conversations instantly throw a red flag up to me. Not in terms, it doesn't guarantee that City have done anything wrong, but it tells me they think they may have done because they don't want it to be discussed in any way, shape, or form. And as I've said on here many times, if they're found innocent, I will stand shoulder to shoulder with them and say they are innocent because they, once we read it, once we see it, you know the truth, as it were. And this isn't as a motive of some of the famous public court cases in American history, where when the verdict's done, you sit there and go, "How the hell did that happen?" I think this will be fairly cut and dry in either direction. I really do feel like it will be fairly cut and dry in either direction because it's one of those things where if the Premier League have got the proof that they've said, City have either got to counter it or they're going to be found guilty. It's as simple as that. Now, if the Premier League has no proof and it's all just allegations and they have no proof that they've done anything, then how it even got to a charge level is crazy. And you can't be guilty of something that there's no proof of. So either way, I think this is gonna work out soon. But viewers, give us your thoughts and your feelings on it in the comments section below.
I'd be just like you, Terry, by the way. If
Sorry?
they were found innocent, I would say they're innocent, 100%.
I would. Herbal here says, you don't seem to understand how defamation works, Terry. Now, I do understand how defamation works, but the point is this. If I read an article in the Times and I say I believe that article and I talk about that, I am saying I believe a trusted source. I am not committing a defamation. I am not making up a lie or committing slander. I am that article would be doing that. If that article wasn't true, then that publication that is putting out is misleading me. Therefore, I am not guilty of slander. It's as simple as that. It's about the root. So a YouTuber talking about it's like yourselves. If you turn around Herbal because a newspaper says that Marcus Rashford pushed the manager in training, and you come on here and leave a comment and say, Terry, what about Rashford pushing the manager? And to say it turned out not to be true, you haven't committed defamation or slander. You just repeated what a trusted, and when I say trusted, they're accredited journalistic body has published. So you've just believed that, and you're allowed to believe that. That's your choice. So this idea that YouTubers and whatever receiving cease and desist, again, the only way that would happen is if they were going online and making up stories and saying, I've been informed by a City insider that this is going on, and make something up. That's the only way that would happen, in my personal opinion. Viewers, make sure you hit the like button. Make sure you subscribe to the Terrace. It's really, really important to us that you get that done right now. Yeah, an absolute fact. Of course it is. And I know this because when this all broke, I went and spoke to my lawyer and got him to explain it to me. I said, could I get in trouble? And he just went, no, just shut up and carry on. Right. So, sorry, I'm not reading that comment out. Ange Postecoglou and co.
Hey.
Chelsea sort of exposed them a bit last night, but I was watching a bit of DR Sports earlier on today, and the brilliant Abby over there stated if it wasn't his first season, fans would turn on Postecoglou. I'm seeing Ange out trending. We saw Jamie O'Hara earlier on today talk about how he's been found out. Spurs have been found out. They're going backwards. What do you make of that, Husam? Do you think it's as simple as Ange being found out, why they've had this regression towards the end of the season?
I love it when I can come back on the football terrace and just tell the whole world that I told you so. This is the shit that I live for right here. Ange Postecoglou right here has been exposed once and for all. People are, first of all, yesterday, their title hopes ended. Obviously they were going to win the league this season. That's what we got told by the Spurs fans. So their title hopes were ended by their long rival Chelsea. Chelsea fans, you could take that W. Hello, camera, focus. You could take that W right there. I'm so glad this has happened. I'm so glad this has happened because Spurs fans were so jarring at the start of the season. I still remember the straight facts I done on this very platform with a certain Spurs fan. We had a back and forth for about 45 minutes. And people were upset. People were calling me jealous because I called Spurs imposters. Are they imposters now? Or am I still jealous? Am I jealous of the team in 5th place? Or are they imposters? Yes, they're imposters. I said they won't be here at the end of the season. I said if they challenge for the league, I'll dye my hair white and sing "Come on, you Spurs." That's how sure I was of the downfall. And actually, on the stream, I broke it down. I said the performances are not actually matching the results because I felt like they were getting away with it. Like the game away at Crystal Palace, like the game at home to Fulham, like the Bournemouth game, I believe it was, or some other game. I think the game against Man United. Even Terry came on here and said, even though obviously Spurs won, even United could have been 2-0 up. They hit the post twice. They had multiple chances. So the signs were there. For anyone to act like the signs just suddenly appeared, it's just false narrative. Sometimes people just have vision. We envision stuff before it actually happens. People just like to live in the moment. As soon as someone comes in, plays good football, there's another record Spurs broke yesterday. They're the first team ever to have that many points after 10 games and not end up in the top 4. Forget challenge for the league. Everyone on the whole world would have said challenge for the league is a step too far and all that shit. Okay, no problem. They didn't even finish top 4. And if your excuse is injuries, then Liverpool have been decimated with injuries. Chelsea that you played yesterday had players on the bench that had homework the next day. So you cannot mention to me injuries. There are a bunch of players I never even heard of. The guy that came on, number 63, Torinian, whatever the hell his name is, he's like about 18, 17. I've never even heard of him, never seen him before. I didn't even know he existed. He's a Chelsea youth player. This is the type of shit that we were talking about at the start of the season. That's when a lot of Arsenal fans joined my side, because they realized I was actually calling out these Arsenal fans. And I told them all, this is what it comes down to. People now, Spurs fans, you have two types of Spurs fans. Three, let me say. The ones who are going like, you know what? This is all Daniel Levy's fault. We're going to have to wait and see if this summer we spend and all that shit. And then you have the other two types. One that are blaming all of this on Ange, and the other type is that blaming all of this on the players. Suddenly, Bissouma is now a shit player. Suddenly, James Maddison is now crap. Suddenly, Heung-min Son is getting pocketed by Alfie Gilchrist. Alfie Gilchrist, who none of us even knew a month ago until he played at the Emirates, or a week ago, or whatever it is. At the end of the day, these Spurs players are not good enough. Stop comparing them to the actual elite players at the end of the spectrum. We've heard Spurs fans all year long. Bissouma is better than Rice. Maddison is better than Odegaard. It was just consistent comparisons. Van de Ven is better than Saliba, better than this guy, better than that guy. He's the best centre-back in the league. Pedro Porro is the best right-back in the league. He got absolutely roasted yesterday, and he couldn't do nothing about it, and he couldn't even cross a road. Udogie as well, and Vicario. I was one of the few people warning all year long. I said Vicario is not the goalkeeper of the season. Stop saying he's the goalkeeper of the season just because he makes 8 saves out of the 10 shots that he saves, because that's just Simon Mignolet vibes. Ange Postecoglou has been exposed big time, and I just want to go back to a newspaper article. This is the thing that got me over the edge when we were talking about Tottenham Hotspur at the start of the season. I still remember bringing it up to Terry, and he got it on the screen, where it's like, Spurs are no longer Spursy under Ange Postecoglou. Okay, Carabao Cup, you've been eliminated. FA Cup, you've been eliminated. Premier League, you didn't challenge. Top 4, you did not get. So how exactly are you no longer Spursy? This is the problem I have with certain fans. They just want to live the moment, and they forget the vision where the club can head to. And by the way, teams have found out Ange. I mean, we're sat here talking about the Spurs players, you know, clubs have figured out Ange. You know what I have to do now to beat Ange Postecoglou? Just play a bit more defensive. Let them have the ball. They're going to pass to the winger. He's going to look at the fullback for 5 seconds. If he fancies dribbling past him, he tries. And if he doesn't, he just passes it back. That's it. Pass. Do nothing. It's just toothless. There's just no bite. There's nothing there. James Maddison yesterday dropped a stinker. It's very easy to sit here and just talk about the usual suspects, because I actually thought Romero, as an example, has been a player that over the last 2 games, even though we critiqued him at the start of the season, he's been a player over the last 2 games who hasn't even actually been that bad, as an example, Romero. So there's been plenty of players who Spurs fans put on such a pedestal, and now they come sinking down low. Some people will blame the manager, some people will blame the players. But for me, if Jose Mourinho and Conte can't be successful at your football club, no one will. No one will. That club is just doomed as long as they have those owners, as long as they have that direction. If you have any doubt about what's happening to Spurs right now, go after the stream and just watch the Antonio Conte press conference, his exit press conference. This is your homework to everyone in the chat. As soon as this stream ends, go and watch the Conte press conference. Everything he said turns out to be facts. Just like the Mourinho one, even Terry will tell you, just like the Mourinho one at Man United at the end, even though he was to blame, even though he made it toxic and all that shit, the Mourinho one, the football heritage one, a lot of it came out to be facts. Look how they play, if they play, all of that stuff. These are the things that we always talk about. It's not just living in the moment. I've been watching the Premier League for the last 20 years. I've seen Hull City be top of the league. Do you remember the 1-1 at the Emirates when Denilson, I think his name was, scored? I've seen Everton be top of the league 8-9 games into the season. Sometimes teams are just more physically prepared. Sometimes teams are just more mentally prepared for the start of the season. Sometimes teams have just had a longer, period of summer off. Maybe nothing has happened to them to the previous year to have a negative effect on them. So all of that type of stuff we've seen happen before, and people just want to have premature ejaculation. And as soon as a team plays good for 10 games, oh, he's the best. Do you remember the article that triggered you, Terry? And this is what I'll end on. Ange Postecoglou has Spurs playing just like Alex Ferguson had Man United playing. Remember that article right there? Or actually, I think it was even better than Alex Ferguson had Man United playing. So that tells you all you need to know.
Yeah, I mean, it's that article, actually, I've got it here. I don't think it was worded quite like that, but if I remember it, I'm going to get it back up on the screen. it said he might be the next Sir Alex Ferguson. That was published on the 14th of October 2003. And I'm not like you. I understand that he's been exposed. I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt, though. And I think he does need another full summer and a chance to improve that squad. There's a lot of players that are not up to standard. I do think as a collective, they've been exposed towards the end of the season. The quality of player that he's got with the way he's trying to play football. And I think he does need to adapt his style slightly because people have worked parts of it out. But I think this idea from Spurs fans of writing it off and saying, the one saying get rid of him, and I've heard a lot of them say it, it's crazy. I don't know about you, Staffy. I know you're a bit of a secret Spurs fan, as people say. But do you feel that the way people are turning on Ange Postecoglou is a little bit over the top right now?
I'm here to defend Ange. I'm not going to defend the Spurs team because I don't know how Ange has been exposed yesterday. I feel like yesterday's game showed me that the players got exposed. I watched the game yesterday. I saw the possession. I saw the shooting stats. I saw everything, and it showed me that Spurs have a good manager with not just good with not good players. I feel like if we want to be objective and talk about the team, you can 100% slander the individuals on the pitch, and no one is safe from the criticism. Even Bissouma, he's the biggest L I held this season because he started the season very good, and he just fell off a cliff since. So
better than Declan Rice, you said, didn't you?
Said he's a better 6. We're not going to revisit that.
You said he's better than Declan Rice. Don't do a Don here. Don't be a Don and try to fix it.
He has not been better than Rice this season. Let's drop this. I've said it multiple times. Rice has been better than him. If anything, I actually have a new narrative to push. I think they need to sell Bissouma. I think he's one of those players that has the footballing ability, but it's never going to match it with his attitude and his work ethic on the pitch. And I look at Ange and I look what he requires from his players, and I don't think Bissouma is going to be it. Even Maddison. Listen, Maddison, there was a lot of comparisons in the beginning of the season between him and Bruno and Odegaard and De Bruyne, and it's easy to say, very easy to say that he's been the worst this season because he started also the season very well, and he's also fell off a cliff since his injury. And them two are meant to be, I would say, two of the best 3-4 players in that team. You know, when you look at Romero, Van de Ven, and what's his name, and Son. I mean, these are the players you're supposed to rely on. And I don't think Ange has been able to rely on these guys. I watched the game yesterday. I love how no one calls out the fact that they conceded 2 goals to set pieces. Everyone talks about the high line, but they didn't concede any goals because of the high line. So it's like, I understand people like to push the agendas, but let's at least wait for a game like the Newcastle game where the high line got exposed. So I would ask everyone to be just a little bit more objective than that. But anyways, and to me, listen, if you get to go to Stamford Bridge and have about 64% possession, have 19 shots, but only like 3 or 4 on target, and the fact that you have that amount of possession in the opposition's half and you're not creating clear-cut chances, that's an issue because I don't even know how many clear-cut chances they created. I would love to check that stat, big chances created, but it's probably not that much, and that's the issue. A coach's job is always to get you to the final third, and the final third is when, if you're a quality player, you tend to express yourself. And I didn't see that from Spurs, and I don't see a lot against low blocks. That's the issue. I seen Ange yesterday scream at them saying, "Stop passing backwards." He was getting frustrated, and that just shows me one thing: this manager knows clearly what he wants. I still have issues with his lack of adaptability, but I'm not using that towards yesterday's game because I don't think he lost yesterday because of his system or anything. He just lost because they just have a shit set piece coach. But that's a different topic. I look at the Spurs team yesterday, and if I'm a Spurs fan, I am demanding big transfers this summer because this is for once that in recent years, they have a manager that has a very clear identity of what he wants to do. And it's not pragmatic. It's not negative. It's not anti-football like they used to say about Conte and Mourinho and all them. He's a manager that really wants to do something, but what does it say, Terry? You can't polish a turd. You can't really do that with some of these players. You really can't. Like, you look at the quality on the pitch, there's nothing you can do with an Emerson Royale and these guys.
I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt, and I think he needs to be given time to improve this squad. I think Spurs fans turning on him completely is crazy. Where I slightly disagree with you, though, because I saw you put it in the group chat last night, like you said on the show, like, why is Terry blaming Postecoglou when they conceded set pieces. As far as I'm concerned, as the manager of a football club, you're accountable if your team is weak at set pieces, the same as you're accountable if you're good at set pieces.
That's a fair criticism.
Yeah. And I think when he comes out in a press conference, basically saying he doesn't care about set pieces, and then they concede 2 more from them, that's a problem. 100%. And this is what I mean by being exposed. All managers are at risk of being exposed. Last season, City was struggling, and then they adapted their system. They weren't exposed to a level where they weren't going to be in a title race, but teams are working out a way of nullifying them a little bit and getting something, and they adapt. And whether it be the setup on set pieces, whether it is the high line at particular points in the game, I think one of the areas that he's got to adapt is they tend to start a lot of games, especially early on in the season, like a freight train. And remember what I said earlier on this campaign about Arsenal? And I know I got a bit of stick for this when they lost to Villa, but I felt they started the season off slower, almost on purpose. And it may not have come as obvious as the manager saying to the players, play with less intensity, because I don't think it would work if you did that. But it's almost like him subtly doing it, where this is how we're going to play at the moment. And it is a less intense game so that you can pace yourself, because I think Spurs look, considering the amount of games they haven't played, they've not been in Europe, they didn't go on cup runs, they look shagged out, which is a very English expression for tired. They look shagged out. And I think it's because they started the season every game.
That word meant something else, but fair enough.
No, when someone, it does mean something else, right? It's shagged also means a little bit of the horizontal hula, but I don't know if it's said all over England, but in London, when you say, I'm shagged out, it means you're tired as well. It's got that double meaning.
Now, can I just say one thing about the set pieces thing? I just want to say 2 things about the set pieces thing. First of all, I mean, the only reason Chelsea scored from set pieces is just because Chelsea missed their clear-cut chances. Nicholas Jackson, Cole Palmer, I wrote it down. I literally wrote down the clear-cut chance. The funny part is I wrote down the clear-cut chances in case Chelsea fans wanted to waffle about Pochettino. I wrote the Jackson miss, the Palmer tap-in, the Mudryk chance in the 4th minute, the Mudryk chance in the 20th minute, the Madueke chance in the 23rd minute, Palmer 52nd, the Mudryk one in the 46th minute where Vicario gave it to him and he gave it back to him. So I stopped writing after that because Chelsea scored twice in it. So I knew no one was going to say Poch out. But the point is, Chelsea missed their clear-cut chances. Chelsea actually created more clear-cut chances than Spurs did. I actually think Chelsea could have won by 3 or 4 goals. Spurs had what we call empty possession. You could pass left, pass right 500 times. That's calm by me. You can pass all you want. And at the end of the day, I'm going to get the 3 points. I'm going to get the victory. And by the way, speaking of Poch, people are blaming Poch all year long for set-piece defending. Now that Spurs are the worst club at it in the league, I'm gonna blame Ange for it as well. I'm just keeping the logic consistent. At the end of the day, the same people that were propping up the manager and these players at the start of the season now need to take a step back and choose which hill they want to die on, because both hills are going down, whether it be the Ange one or the players one, for different reasons. Because Ange is never ever going to get the good players enough to play his way of football at Spurs anyway. It's not like Spurs is going to go out there and sign Rodri level players. So he's never going to be able to implement quote unquote Ange ball anyway. Like he's only going to have to be implemented to an extent. So he's never going to. So he's going to have to adapt whether he likes it or not. And some of these players are just not the level of what Spurs fans think they are. Madison is not as good as Odegaard.
Question, Staffy, on that. You said not. You said to Sam like that's not true, and I get that.
It is not true.
But when it comes to De Zerbi, he's getting stick for sticking to one style of football and getting beat too much, with a depleted squad of injuries, with a much worse squad than Spurs, and having losing his best players most summer. Why is it different for a big Ange than it is to a De Zerbi? Genuine question.
No. So when I say it's not true, half that statement is correct, half of it is wrong. There's no way for you to say this manager won't be able to get players to play his style of play. I disagree with that, because there's so many managers out there that play their style of play with lesser quality players than the traditional top 6 or the traditional big 6 teams. However, I've said this before, I don't think he'll get enough players to compete and win the league. Now, that doesn't mean that you won't get enough players to be a consistent top 4 contender, which I think Ange will be. But you know that, Terry, because we spoke about this off air before, and that's the same thing I said about De Zerbi. And you'll remember these exact words. I said, playing this style of football, there's a low ceiling for it. Because once you reach that ceiling, you can't go over it until you start becoming adaptable as a manager. That's why when you look at traditionally all the elite managers that used to win leagues, they had more than just plan A. They had a couple plans. We've seen that with Conte. Remember when Conte, I think he lost 4 to Arsenal, and then he changed up his formation the game after, and then he went on that mad winning run, and then he ended up winning the league. That's what big managers do. Obviously, Pep does it every year, but I'm not going to compare anyone to Pep because he's probably the greatest of all time. Ange 100% can get enough players to play his style play, because I've seen it this season with lesser quality players. You don't need a lot of investment to get someone better than Emerson, Real, and Davis because the floor is already very low with these players.
Yeah, of course.
Some of the players in the midfield, it's so easy to get someone better than Højbjerg because he's not that good. It's so easy to get someone better than Richarlison and Brennan Johnson. Which, by the way, what a flop of a signing that was. I told people I'd rather have Daniel James in my team, and they laughed at me. Daniel James didn't even cost us 50 million. So yes, once again, I'd rather have Daniel James for 15 million than Brennan Johnson for 50. So it is easier for Ange to just go out in the summer and literally spend somewhere between 100 and 150 and already get better players than that. Because I saw him do that with Van de Ven, with Vicario. Who else did he buy in this team? He's already done that enough. But I don't think he'll win the league. If that was what someone was trying to say, he won't get enough. Because you said Rodri. You don't need to get Rodri to play better football. You need to get Rodri to win the league. That's the difference. So if you're trying to say he's never going to get enough players to play Ange and win the league, I agree with you. But just to be a top 4, top 5, he's already top 5 with a shitty team.
So I agree with you. I agree with you on that. I totally agree with you on that. And I think that the problem I had, we had this conversation when we mentioned De Zerbi the other. I love people in the comments saying it was Potter that built that Brighton team. When De Zerbi first arrived, they started scoring more goals. Everybody said, look, De Zerbi's taken to another level. But anyway, I feel like that's the same with any manager who has a one set way of playing. Unless you can get into a club, because I think if you put De Zerbi in Manchester City with all the infrastructure they've got, he could win major trophies because he would be able to buy the best players in the world, and his brand of football looks excellent. He'd have a great chance of winning those major trophies. The problem is when you start going further and further down the pecking order, it's harder to create a team that can produce that style of football, which is why I enjoyed the semi-final so much so far of the Champions League. I feel like all 4 teams are left in it. There is a set way of playing, but it isn't so regimented. It's a little bit more open. It's a bit like, oh, this is going to be intriguing to see how it goes. But I don't know. I look at it that way. That's why I think they've got to give Pochettino, not Pochettino, Terry, Postecoglou. They've got to give him at least.
Though, they do have to give Poch time too. By the way, let's get that.
Yeah, look, I look at the situation differently, even though that some people are saying you're being a hypocrite. The reason why I still think they've got to look beyond Poch is one, they've started looking anyway, which is it's fairly public knowledge, and
it proves that Chelsea are clueless.
No, I understand all of that, and it's my sort of view on Poch is very similar to my view on Ten Hag. It's they need a reset. In terms of they've got to get rid of a lot of the policies that have been in place. They've got to get rid of some of these players. And I think it's easier to just clear out everything possible and kind of start again.
I disagree completely, Terry.
As opposed to, yeah, I mean, unless the players are completely and utterly bought into the manager, then fair enough. But with Postecoglou, I don't think there's problems in the dressing room. The players want to play for him. Everybody seems to like him. I just think some elements of his system have been found out. And I think some of the players are not good enough. I think some of the players are burnt out to hell because of the velocity they play at all season. And there's got to be an adaptation of it next year. And seeing Spurs fans say, like, it was only like 5-6 months ago they were singing, "We got our Tottenham back." Now there's some people saying, "Get him out the club." I mean, that's just, Spurs coming
Terry,
fifth.
that's the issue, Terry.
I'm not even being horrible. Spurs coming fifth is massive for them. They're the bottom of the top 6 clubs. Over the last 20 years, they're the bottom of the top 6 clubs, and they've got other teams that are historically bigger than them sniffing around them again. Them coming fifth, being in the Europa League, that's a really good season for Tottenham.
Can I tell you? No. Terry, I'll tell you the problem with that logic. First of all, the team that finished 4th is not even Man United. It's not even Liverpool. It's not even like Arsenal. The team that finished 4th is Aston Villa. That's why they have every right to be pissed off. Second of all, at the start of the season, 10 games into the year, forget talks from Dan, who comes on the match reaction. Even the likes of Jamie O'Hara, his name is Jamie, right? Yeah, his name is Jamie. Jamie O'Hara was talking about title challenges. Now let's push title challenges to the side. Let's assume all of that failed because Spurs are not good enough. You cannot then go ahead and fail top 4 too. You can't, by definition. You've got to finish in the top 4. And basically what Terry's doing is essentially calling Spurs lil bro. And Spurs fans just sit back, go like, you know what, they play good football. and
No,
Ange
I'm
has
not doing
He's
that.
not, but
I'm
it is
not
true.
doing that. I'm not doing
Wait,
that.
hold on, Tay. Let me actually speak
If
on
they want
that.
to get to the next level, Ange is never going to get that at Spurs. He's never going to get that high level player ever.
Okay, so here's the thing. People who said in the beginning of the season we're gonna go for the league, they're equally as bad as people that are overreacting right now, saying they'll never do anything. Why can't we just be down the middle? Because Terry just said it spot on. Spurs right now, and I've been saying this all season, I have no issue with anything that's going on with Spurs because Spurs are where they are supposed to be. They're a team that hired a new manager, that are rebuilding under a new manager, playing decent football at times, picking up decent results at times, and they're about to get European football. They're not a top 4 team. You are not meant to get top 4 every time you get a new manager. Ten Hag did it last season, and everyone said he overachieved. And then when he dropped outside the top 4, they said, "See, we told you so." Now this manager is not even in the top 4, so by everyone's logic, he didn't overachieve. But people also saying, "See, I told you so." It's like I feel like people just want to push agendas no matter what. Ainge taking that team from 8th to 5th is a good achievement with the players that he has in this team. I think he's doing well. Anything more or less, he would overachieve or underachieve, in my opinion. I had them exactly where they are right now. I said they'll be 5th, 6th, flirting with top 4, and they flirted with top 4. Using that logic that because Aston Villa are in front of them, so they have the right to be pissed. Okay, so change the name then. Change the name from Aston Villa to Man United. If you had United playing that type of football that Aston Villa did all season, would we have been saying that? Are we only saying it like it's just a surface-based analysis that it just makes no sense? So just because Villa have ahead of me, okay, Villa have been a better team than most people. Villa have a striker who's almost on 30 goals this season in Ollie Watkins. They have a manager who's won multiple cups, and they're the only team right now that are still in Europe, even though they just got smacked yesterday by Olympiacos. So it's like, why are we using Aston Villa's great season as a stick to beat Spurs with when Villa are not rebuilding and Spurs are rebuilding? Like, I'm not even defending Spurs because I think they're playing shit right now. This is more of me defending Age. I don't know what is he meant to do. He's got him in Europe. So why are we upset with this type of season?
I agree with where you're coming from. For me, there's nothing you said that's wrong, Husam, as in they should have probably finished in the top 4 from how well they started. But it doesn't mean their scenario, I think, is different from Man United struggling. It's different. Maybe I've got a bit of bias towards Poch because I believe that Chelsea will spend the money and can attract the best players, and I still don't think he'll get them over the line. So maybe that's what's in my head. But with Ange, he needs another year. But yeah, no more surface level stuff from you.
Let me just tell you this. It depends. First of all, I cannot go back to what I said in August every time.
Circus level arguments, yeah. That's
circus level.
I'm gonna do that from now on. Anyone who says anything agenda based, I'm gonna say it's a circus level argument.
Anyway, at the start of the season, I cannot go back to everything I said in August. At the end of the day, when it comes to this conversation, Spurs were top of the league 10 games into the season. Them not finishing top 4 is a failure, period. I don't care what I said in August. Sometimes context applies. Leicester wanted to avoid relegation. They were top of league in February. Khalas, then whatever they did from February till May doesn't count because they just avoided the relegation because that's what they wanted in August. It's kind of not how it works. So if you're top of the league 10 games in, you collected that many points after 10 games, you should be finishing at least in the top 4. They didn't do that. The fact that Aston Villa are in a European competition with a much weaker squad, with a much weaker team, on paper, everyone was saying that in August anyway. If we want to go back to August, everyone was saying that on paper, Spurs have a much stronger team. And even when we were looking at the Spurs squad, it was stronger. I don't think anyone can name anyone here outside the Aston Villa starting 11 other than the ones that we have seen. And we've seen them go away to City and get slapped 4-1. I've seen the Spurs team go with two left backs essentially and actually get a draw at the Etihad. So I've seen Spurs perform even with the injuries, even with all of that stuff. It's not simply the name, it's the quality. The quality of the players at Aston Villa are not as good as the quality of players at Spurs. That's why they're underperforming. The players are underperforming, the managers are underperforming. And I'm not going to go back to everything I said in August every time there's a conversation. There's something called context, and then context when the season goes through. You expect Manchester United to be top 4 next season or whatever it is. If Man United were top of the league in February or January, you're not going to keep saying, top 4, top 4, top 4. So listen, Spurs, no club factually using numbers, we're going to have statistic-based analysis. Based on numbers, no club has ever had that many points after 10 games and not finished in the top 4. So they're the first club ever in 30 years of Premier League football to have that many points after 10 games and not finish in the top 4. That's context right there.
But here's the thing. You thought they would fall anyways. You kept saying I predicted their downfall. So when it happens, how are you blaming them now? Because you clearly didn't rate what they were doing in the beginning of the season. And obviously they overachieved in the beginning of the season. We all knew eventually Ange was his style of football was gonna get found out. Any new manager who comes in with a new style of football, more times than not, especially if they're a good manager, obviously not if you're a shit manager, people don't know the way that the team sets up. They don't know the way they play football. They pick up results that they call it a honeymoon phase. And that honeymoon phase, the reason it's a honeymoon, because honeymoons don't last long. Honeymoons are meant to be only for a couple weeks or a couple months. And they did get found out and they did drop off.
As
and listen,
KJ now knows.
yeah, KJ, get back to work, KJ.
Like
Yeah,
what real
get
life
back to
is
work.
about.
Yeah, get back to work, KJ. I expect you to be in the office working right now. No more vacation. But based on all that, like, we knew they would drop off. That's why we criticized the ones that said we're going to win the league. Like, we can't criticize them saying you're idiots. You guys are going to drop off. And when they drop off, we're like, oh, wow, why'd you drop off? That's such a shame. No way you should have dropped off. When you called it, it just doesn't make sense. Listen, at the end of the day, just to wrap all this up, Spurs 100% overachieved in the beginning. I never went over myself. Okay, I'm not a Spurs fan, so I wasn't going to have any emotions talking about them. But I kept saying, obviously, they're not going to win the league, but they'll be there and thereabout in the top 4, top 5 region, and they did. And listen, they bought it towards the end of the season, in my opinion, because of individuals. And back to Villa again. Villa have been amazing this season. I know we said we're not going to by name, but then we're going by name. That's just like a disingenuous way to talk about it. When you look at their players, they have one of the best goalkeepers in the league. They have one of the best strikers in the league. They have one of the best midfielders in the league. They have some of the best wingers in the league in Diaby and Bailey and them. So they've been doing well. What Villa are doing is not fake at all. They didn't rebuild. They took advantage of a lot of teams around them rebuilding, where they had a little bit more stability, and they kicked on from last season to this season. Chelsea dropped down, United dropped down as you regress. Spurs didn't drop down because they were 8th, but they weren't enough to get in the top 4, and they just got in the top 4. I don't know why we can't just respect what Emery's done and say, fair enough, this team is actually the 4th best team. I don't think anyone looks at Villa and they're like, they're not supposed to be there based on what they did. Maybe by name.
No, I listen. I think I get it. I think there's merit in both levels of criticism. Let's go to some super chats here. First one says, Spurs remind me of myself in high school. You know, not the cool kid, not the nerd, not the weirdo, just there. Yeah, that's what we had a TV show in England that was huge about 15 years ago. It's called The In-Betweeners, and that's kind of what Spurs are. Yeah, it's very true. Evening, Terry, and everyone. Do you think Spurs missing Harry Kane's goals? Kane would have won more games. Yeah, listen, they are. Look, I think they started the season well, and in the first sort of 8 weeks, I think we even spoke about it, like, wow, they're missing him. People are stepping up, but of course they are. The man has scored 40. I think he's the second highest goal scorer in European football this year. He may not have scored as many at Tottenham, but he would have easily, in all comps, had 30 odd goals again. And that probably would have won them an extra 10 points, maybe, which puts them well in the top 4. And only on the edge of a title race. So yeah, of course you miss a player like him. Liverpool may have been robbed by VAR against Spurs, Arsenal, and City, but also dropped points to absolute garbage sides like Everton, Luton. We're putting United in there for Palace and Brighton, which cost them the league.
I'm not gonna lie. I was gonna say, why'd you put the other teams there? Because we Everton, Palace, Brighton, they've been playing well. Don't put them with us. We're shittier than them.
Palace look really good at the minute. I'm not looking forward to playing them Monday. I'll tell you, I'm not looking forward to playing them.
We're going to be at Hamza's ends on Monday, just letting you know. So Hamza's going to be there watching our downfall.
As a football fan, I hope City are innocent. This will be the sport. But as a Liverpool fan, F them. I want the league medals, FA Cups, Champions Leagues. I'm kind of this. Part of me almost does want them to be innocent as well, because I don't think people have deeped yet. So if City are as guilty as some of the journalists who believe they have information believe, if they're as guilty as the Premier League have alluded to them being, it redefines the last 10 plus years of football in England. If you think about every conversation we've had around best managers, best teams, which managers should have been sacked, you look at Klopp's legacy, you look at what Arteta's going through now, you think about Jose's time here, you think about Ollie's time here. If the level of accusation is proven to be true, you look back at it and the ramifications are absolutely huge. Not just teams they knocked out of cup competitions, but you could argue Jose would have won a Premier League. You could argue Ollie would have won a Premier League. What would that do for Ollie's life his legacy? How would Man United fans look at things? And one of the biggest areas is this.
You could argue Klopp becomes the second best Premier League manager.
You could argue that, absolutely. I mean, you could also argue that Liverpool only got to that level because City were playing and performing at that level, and you kind of adapt to what's around you. But on top of that, we have all at times, I certainly have anyway, have looked at City as a beacon of, wow, look how you run a club. Standards, quality players, you don't let people go stale, you move people on when they're not good enough. City have been run impeccably. And a lot of us have held our club to that standard. If that standard turns out to not be real, it's built upon fraudulence within the footballing world. I'm not saying it makes the way the Glazers have run Man United look better, but maybe the way Liverpool fans view FFG's approach, maybe the way some Arsenal fans view the Cronkies changes because the one that we all want it to be wasn't doing it legitimately. Does that make sense? So I think for me, part of me really wants them to be innocent because undoing all of that and unpacking all of that is massive. It really is. Hi, Terry. How do I get on the panel? First thing to start doing is reach out to KJ and start coming onto some match reactions with the team you support, and we'll kind of build it up from there, my friend. Big up to Terry.
Better intro as well.
Sam and the waffle maker. Who's the waffle maker? No one here waffles, really. Although I do now have a nice bag of popcorn ready for if there's ever any fights on these shows. Because popcorn's the only treat I can have on my diet as I'm trying to get back in shape. I'm not done bad. I lose weight quickly. In the last 10 days, I've lost 3 kilos. Pretty good, you know. But I think a lot of that is water and swelling because I was a fat bastard. Do you know what I mean? From eating and drinking too much. Stelvio joined from, I can't pronounce that name, mate. I don't know. No one mentioned him, but no one mentioned him.
Eddie Savio joined Manchester City from Girona. No one gives a shit what his first club was because that's besides the point. Do you understand? Stop mentioning irrelevant stuff. You know, that's why whenever I make an argument, you just argue something that has nothing to do with what I'm saying.
Sometimes it's not about who you want to sell, but who you can sell. That's speaking about the Man United thing earlier. Yeah, of course. And there will be some of the players that United struggle to get rid of, but then we should just be cutting them loose, paying them off, moving them out. We just keep too much dead wood at this club for far too long.
Yeah, but then Bruno's not dead wood.
Bruno's not dead wood, without a doubt. But just very quickly on that, Staffy, what was your opinion on potential swap deal? Frankie de Jong coming in, Bruno going in the other direction.
I mean, I know you're probably one of the few people that would say no to that. If you wouldn't do that, would you do it? What did you say?
My view is, and I think me and you are very similar in this regard, although I like ugly footballers and you don't. I view it as depends on who our manager is and the system we want to play, but I'm open for anybody other than Mainu being sold. I genuinely am, but it would have to be. So my point is this: I don't think you can replace Bruno like for like, because you can't find another attacking midfielder that's going to have his numbers. So you have to go for a different scenario. And I mentioned when we got rid of Roy Keane, we tried to replace him pound for pound. Didn't work. We ended up doing a Carrick, which is brilliant. Maybe going for a Frankie de Jong and having a midfield of Frankie de Jong and Mainu builds a much better. And then you find some creativity to purchase on the wings. You make up for it that way. Does that make sense? So I'm open to anything. I'm going to trust Dan Ashworth. I'm going to trust Walcott. I'm going to trust Barada. I'm going to trust Blanc, who's there. I'm going to trust in the people I've been asking for a decade to join my club. High level, top quality football decision makers. I may criticize certain signings and say, I don't like him, but I love Frankie de Jong. So I am open-ended to it, if I'm being honest with you. But if we're going to get rid of a Bruno, you've got to be replacing him with a Frankie de Jong. We can't be going, right, we're getting rid of Bruno and we're buying Billy Gilmore. That wouldn't make sense to me.
But de Jong, Mainu, and potentially a 6, because that's how I look at the midfield being played. I don't want a 10. I would do that deal in a heartbeat. There's no discussion about it. You are right when you're saying you're not replacing like for like, so you're going to look for other alternatives. I mean, mainly for chances created, you're going to look for other alternatives. If we're going for Elise is going to be a chance creator anyways, because he's one of those wingers who's not about pace and power and running all that. He cuts in and he creates chances and he plays a lot in the final third. So you get a lot of chance creations from there. Potentially, we'll see what happens with the left wing as well. In whoever we get in the midfield, because I could be wrong. Maybe Mainu will be the 6 and we'll look for another 10. I don't know. But if we could get that deal, 100%. Because, I mean, De Jong, there's a reason why he's the highest paid midfielder in the world. I didn't want him before because I thought it would be him, Bruno, and Mainu. And I said I don't want him when we have Mainu next to him there. But if we will restructure that midfield, get rid of Bruno and get a new 6, then of course I'll take Frankie De Jong. He has some of the best progressive stats in Europe. It's over there. It's online for everyone to look at it. He's one of the best, if not the best in the world, to take the ball from the first third to the final third. Yes, I think he has issues with defending and creating chances, which I talked about before, so I'm not going to change my tone about that. But getting the ball from the from the first third to the final third, whether by progressive passing or just actually dribbling the ball and carrying the ball, there's probably a few that can match him on that. So I'll take that in a heartbeat. He's more elite in what he does, in my opinion, than Bruno does. Maybe you'll disagree with me because I know you always like to talk about Bruno's chance creation stats, but in what they both specialize in, I think Frankie's much more superior. So I would take Frankie next to Mainu and a third midfielder.
KJ just said here, check his injury record out though. I've never looked at his injury record. Let's have a look at Frankie De Jong. Oh yeah, I mean it is.
I don't really know much about his injury.
Yeah, it's one of those interesting ones. So since he's been at Barca, he's had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 injuries. 4 of them have been this year, but 1, 2, 3. He's had 4 ankle injuries, and like this season, he's kind of missed 38 days, 35 days. He has had some injury problems, which is true. And in the last 2 seasons, it's like 6.
How old is he? 27.
26. He's going to turn 27 in a week. So yeah, he's 27 years of age. But
I'm not gonna lie, Bruno is going to break down soon because the amount of football this guy's played, the amount of miles that he has in his legs.
That's something really true about Bruno.
If you can cash on Bruno and get a Frankie De Jong, you don't get a lot of chances like that because you could keep Bruno one more year and then you see a crazy regression because I think he's physically regressed already. So you give him one more year. Like Casemiro is an example. Look at his regression this year in terms of physicality. Last year, we bought him for 60. 2 years ago, we bought him for 60. We could have sold him to Saudi last season. Now you're not really going to get much for him unless he goes to Saudi Arabia again. So sometimes you want to sell 1 year early other than selling 1 year late because it can make a huge shift.
But before the end of the show, boys, obviously title race this weekend. Arsenal play Bournemouth, tough game. City play Wolves, a game that they have lost home and away in recent years. How do we see this weekend panning out? Will Arsenal stay on top? Will they get a further lead over Man City? How do you see it going, Husam?
Oh, the spirit of the wolf is back, ladies and gentlemen. I'm here for it. Pedro Neto's back, I believe, because I'd rather Arsenal win because it's not manufactured success. It's a real football club, so I can't wait. Inshallah, Arsenal win the league this season. I think they might get a gift from Wolves because when we won the league last, Wolves beat them actually home and away. So they've already done their job away from home and they've beaten Manchester City. I see already people spamming the wolf emoji in the chat. You guys already know how it is. Get the wolf emojis in the chat. You just manifest the spirit of the wolf. I think Pedro Neto back is very important for them. I think Wolves will get chances. It's really just whether they're clinical or not. I mean, just like where we watched what happened against Brentford, just like we watched what happened against multiple clubs at Man City. I mean, look, objectively speaking, because I don't want to do surface level analysis, Chris Wood could have had a hat-trick against Manchester City.
Circus level analysis. Circus level.
Point is, the guy could have had a hat-trick against Manchester City. Like, that game could have ended 3-1 to Forest easily. Easily could have ended 3-1 to Forest. Wolves will get chances. But can you trust Cunha? Can you even trust Pedro Neto in front of goal? Can you trust all of these guys in front of goal to put the ball in the back of the net? If they do put the ball in the back of the net, then Arsenal could win the league this season. And I much rather Arsenal win the league this season because I'm looking at the rest of the City fixtures. Look, objectively speaking, Wolves are on the beach. West Ham are on the beach. Fulham are on the beach. Spurs, by the time that City play them, will probably also be on the beach because there's absolutely nothing left to fight for anyway. The one thing I'll say is, from the 3 teams that are on the beach, this is probably their toughest test because Wolves provide something from a counter-attack perspective that's scary to a Manchester City because they've got pace. They've got pace on the counter-attack. They've got players who can give the ball in behind to the Manchester City defenders, like the likes of Lemina, like the likes of Joao Gomez, who actually have a very good passing ability, specifically when it comes to long balls for these players to make the runs in behind. So I expect Wolves will get chances. I expect the likes of Cunha will get chances. The likes of Neto will get chances. Players will be there, but will they put the ball in the back of the net? That's just a $1 million question. I think Wolves are the antidote to Man City for God knows what reason. Like every time they turn up against them and shit. So yeah, I hopefully this game ends in a 1-1 draw. And Arsenal do end up going top of the league because I think Arsenal, Bournemouth, you said it's tough fixture. It's not. It's not. I don't care what happened last season. I'm expecting Arsenal to slap the living crap out of Bournemouth, to be honest with you. 3-0, 4-0. Bournemouth are a club that were essentially looked at as one of the clubs that might get relegated. They're 100 million% safe. There is no way for them to get relegated. They're not fighting for any European spot or anything. So yeah, Bournemouth, that won't be a tough fixture, man.
On the Wolves game, by the way, when I said they beat them twice in 2019.
Yes.
And then
Thank you,
lost.
Wolves.
And then they lost 6 on the bounce to them, and then they've won their game against them this season. So in the recent Premier League era, when they've they've beaten them back to back, right? So if you're an Arsenal fan, you've got to be hoping history repeats itself. But in terms of excitement, I think City dropping points first,
yes,
would send the title race, not from a City fan's point of view. I respect that. City fans, you want Arsenal dropping points. But I think if you're a neutral, or you want Arsenal to win it, if Arsenal was to beat Bournemouth tomorrow and City dropped some points, you'd go into those last 2 games and it'd be amazing. It would be amazing to watch that. It would be amazing to watch it. It really would. It really would.
That would be a fire.
How do you think Arsenal will get on, Staff?
I want Arsenal to win. So there we go there. By the way, I forgot this. I need to collect the receipt here. I said last week they'll beat Spurs 3-2, and they beat him 3-2. But somehow I'm always waffling. Somehow I wanted Arsenal to lose. Somehow everyone was on my case. And I give reasons why it's going to be a close game and they're going to win 3-2. And they won 3-2.
I do get that, Staffy. But you know what, right? If your watch now runs out of battery and stops at 4:30, you know that twice a day that's still going to tell the time correctly, right?
What does that mean? What are you trying to say?
Well, you can just there's an expression we use here in England. I'm not sure if they have it in Jordan or in Jordan or the United States.
Bro, clock strikes twice a day.
No, but we've got another one, which if you throw enough shit, some of it sticks, right? And if you throw enough shit opinions out every now and then,
when I said it's going to be a close game, it was a close game. God, listen, I'll never get respect for the amount of things that I get right here. Obviously, getting the prediction spot on is like, I'm not going to pretend that I was not Nostradamus and I was going to be able to actually predict 3-2, but Arsenal's quality showed that day, and they won 3-2. So, anyways, I'm just saying this for the Arsenal fans that are usually on my case. Give me a break. I said you guys will win. Alhamdulillah, you guys won. So give me a break now. And I do think you'll beat Bournemouth again. I think Bournemouth is a good team. I'm not gonna disrespect them. But going to if it was at home, I might say Bournemouth at home is usually a potential banana slip. Like there's certain games that you look at home and you're like, could someone slip up there? Bournemouth is one of them. But this game is away from home, and I'm not gonna lie, they just don't have enough to move this Arsenal team. This Arsenal team is way too good for them right now. They're at home. They have all the motives in the world to win. So everything on and off the pitch makes sense why Arsenal should go and win. Obviously, it's not like that. Things happen on the day. You never know what's gonna happen. Maybe Arsenal have a stinker, but it's very highly unlikely for me that Arsenal to go into this game and slip up in it. So I think Arsenal will have I wouldn't say an easy game, but maybe by Arsenal standards, they'll have a good game, and I see them winning by like 2-3 goals at least. Just if you find a way to shut down Solanke, which to be honest, he's been having an amazing season. If it wasn't for him, Bournemouth would probably be a relegation team. If they find a way to keep him quiet, which I do think Gabriel can have can do a job on him, they'll win the game. So I'm actually going to predict that Arsenal win. The Wolves game, on the other hand, I feel like a part of me, because I want City to lose, I'm trying to see it in ways where, like, how can Wolves trouble them? I think Wolves are a very, very physical team. And historically, they do give trouble. I don't know what they did with Arsenal this season. I would need to go back and check what they did in games. Or maybe you can check it for me, Terry. I feel like they give trouble to teams that like to play pretty football and pass it around and keep possession and stuff like that. And that's what City are, obviously with a much higher quality. And I want Wolves to do something, But this game is also away from home, and I don't see how they would. If they do, I wouldn't be surprised, dude. Like I feel like they've been good on the transition. Their midfield is very solid, compact, physical, and they do rough up midfielders.
Arsenal beat them 2-1 at home and 2-0 away, but they were quite close.
It was close games, I remember.
The away game, in fairness, Arsenal, they dominated.
Scored late. Remember, Odegaard scored like super late in the game.
Really late, yeah. So they get, again, Man United this year, I know we're not like a top team, but pushed it hard. Their record
even
against
Spurs, against Spurs, they gave them a rough game and they beat them as well. And
Spurs they beat Spurs home and away this year. How did they get on against Liverpool?
We won.
Liverpool beat them 3-1 away from home. Yeah, you guys actually smashed them, I think.
Yeah, but Liverpool and they're more transition than the teams I'm trying to describe. My point is they actually rough up these type of teams that try to play the football on the floor and keep so much possession, and they're very good on the transition. I see basically this is what I'm trying to say. I see more potential for City to drop points this week than Arsenal, considering both oppositions that they have to face. Both of them are at home, but I feel like City against Wolves is a harder game than Bournemouth going to Arsenal. And I feel like maybe a part of me is just being biased because I want City to lose the league and I'd rather Arsenal win the league. But I really wouldn't be shocked if I see Wolves pick up a point or win the game. I really wouldn't be surprised. So interesting games for sure.
Definitely. I want to thank Brett, by the way, for gifting out. I think he's done 6 gifted memberships out to you guys during the show. So a big thank you to him. I appreciate that. This here from Rep Cruz says, hey guys, fan of the show, serious question. How are Liverpool fans around the world feeling? Hold that, humble yourselves. Come on, you gooners.
I'll answer that for you. As long as my ops are not thriving, we're all having a great day. We don't care how they feel. Listen, all my ops, including Philly last night, because a lot of people told me, oh, wear your Knicks jersey tomorrow. Listen, Liverpool, Philly, they can all hold it, bro. As long as my ops are having bad days, I'm always having a great day. So respectfully, no one gives a shit how they feel. They can hold that.
There we go. Look, I want to thank everybody for tuning in. Remember to check out Field of Greens and Brickhouse Nutrition. If you're trying to eat healthier, if you're trying to get fitter, lose weight, whatever it may be, this is the best supplement out that I've tried. I've tried a number of them. It's pure organic.
Working on you, Terry. You're looking good. You're looking good.
Mate,
look at Terry. He's looking good.
I'm getting there. Like I'm starting in the gym again now, exercising, getting there. I've got a long way to go, but a big part of it is diet, and I'm eating good. But what Brickhouse Nutrition does, it just gets you that extra nutrition, that extra quality foods into your system every single day, and it's in drink form. So go check it out, people, by scanning the QR code on the screen or clicking the link below. Use promo code SQUAD for a 15% discount. Husm, Staffy, always a pleasure, boys, to speak football with you. I'm off now because I've got to get to London to film the Squad episode with Staffy. Not Staffy.
Staffy, I'm not in London. No.
With CB, with Don, and with Henry Wright. We're going down to East London to record that. So it'd be good to meet up with them boys, and we'll be dropping that tomorrow morning for you all. But until next time, everyone, take care. Goodbye. God bless. And we'll see you all again soon. Peace.